if we want to keep the image at dead center, we have to use another program. That's called PHD2, which does exist on the laptop, the Discovery laptop. And I'm just going to flip over to PHD2 now and just show you that. But again, for visual use and for almost all public programs, we're only going to have 30, 40, maybe 50 people going through the scope. Your object will probably not drift out of the view within 10 to 15 minutes or so. Okay. But let's go to PHD2 and see how that works. Okay, so here's PHD2. Now, what PHD2 does is it takes a really, really, really detailed image of a star, very high magnification, and it tries to align that. Now, one thing that you need to do is for your Go2++ using APT, you use the DSLR on the refractor. But for this program, you need to flip the flip mirror over to the Planet camera, the reddish camera that's attached. That's the one that's best used for PHD2. You can use the regular DSLR, that's your call, your options, but this will give you far, far better tracking, far, far better accurate results because it gives you about 10 times more magnification. Okay, this one connects everything. This one begins looping. This one selects a star. This one starts guiding. That's it. This one stops. That's all you have to do. You want this set for 2 seconds. So I'm going to first connect everything. Connect all. Okay, so everything's connected. I'm now going to start looping to take these continuous pictures every 2 seconds. If I were to bump the telescope, well, you can just see it move slightly right there. Okay. I'm now going to select a star. So it's selected one star down here, but it's also going to use the input from these stars for doing its work. Now, as you can see, in the top right, the way I have this configured, it's really zoomed in on that image of the star, and it's going to use this very, very detailed image to try to keep things perfectly accurate. Now, if you move the telescope, I have to hold down the shift and then guide to do the calibration, but in your case, you wouldn't have to do that. So I'm going to hold shift and then guide, and you're going to see it's going to start to calibrate. So it's going to move the telescope, and it's actually going to what we call nudge the telescope. It's going to move it ever so slightly, a little bit west, east, north, south. So it gets an idea of how much of an incremental movement of the telescope actually changes the picture of the star on the screen. So it's on, it can go 10, 20, I've seen it go as high as 50 steps, but that's very, very rare. Usually it's somewhere between 10 to 20 steps in any one direction. And once it finishes the calibration and it steps, it automatically goes into guiding. There you go. Okay, it's guiding now. There's nothing else I need to do. If the telescope is well aligned, it should stay within the 0.5 to minus 0.5 range. In my case, I can tell the telescope is not well aligned, so it's going to be wildly fluctuating up and down, as you can see it's doing right now. But for the purposes of what you're doing with visual observations, you shouldn't have a problem with this whatsoever. Even though this looks like it's moving fairly wildly in this field here, you'll notice that in the actual view here, it's not really moving much at all. Okay. Now, the calibration stuff we just went through, you only need to do it once. You should never need to do it again because PHD2 remembers your last calibration. So when you finish and you shut down PHD2 for the night, that's all you have to worry about. Every time you move the telescope, you gotta, if you're going to use PHD2, you gotta come back to PHD2 and turn on guiding again. In this case, I just click on the guiding button. And I actually hit select the star. There's a star, hit guiding. Okay. There's M13. And let's find the star here. Okay, there's that star. I'm going to take a picture here quickly. And it may move this first one, so I'm not going to worry about too much. Okay, now I'm going to move this over there. There it is. And I'm going to do it again. And it should not have moved very much at all. Okay, dead center. I'm going to move it again. So unlike the last pictures, dead center. Not a good picture because maybe a cloud going by. But point being, it's what it's doing is it's keeping it the star directly in place.